Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take some really interesting information, unpack it, and pull out the key stuff just for you.
Yeah, and today we're looking at something I think is really vital, emotional intelligence. Specifically, how effective leaders in the federal government actually develop it.
Right. And the source material for this is, well, it's pretty solid. It's a doctoral dissertation by David A. Rude called Leadership and Emotional Intelligence.
And what makes this one stand out, I think, is that it's based on interviews, real-life experiences from federal leaders who have been recognized for really exceptional service.
Yeah, like many of them got the Presidential Rank Award. That's a big deal.
It really is a very high honor. So we're talking about people at the top of their game.
Okay, so our mission today, our deep dive goal, is to get a handle on the journey these leaders took. How did their emotional intelligence, their EI, actually grow?
What were the key moments, the factors that really shaped them?
And crucially, what can you, listening now, take away from their stories for your own development, your own learning?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So maybe first things first, let's just make sure we're clear on what we mean by emotional intelligence, especially for leaders.
Good idea. The dissertation dives into a few definitions, right?
It does. It looks at Baron, who talked about using emotions effectively for energy, information, connection, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Then you have Goleman, probably the most famous name, focusing on, understanding and managing our own emotions and recognizing and dealing effectively with others' emotions, navigating relationships.
Right. And Mayer and Salavi, they
Yeah.
saw it more as an ability.
Yeah, an ability to perceive emotions, use them, understand them, and manage them. A set of skills, really.
I liked Lane's definition too. It felt very practical. Something about using emotional information constructively.
In a constructive and adaptive manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That hits the nail on the head. It's about using it effectively.
And the dissertation doesn't stop there. It brings in leadership experts too. Norhaus, Wetton and Cameron,
Yeah.
Buckle.
Right. And they all seem to land on this idea that for leaders, understanding and applying emotional understanding is just fundamental.
So it's way more than just, being nice or agreeable.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Goleman's point is powerful. The leader often sets the emotional tone for the whole place.
The whole organization.
Yeah. And Yuckel connects EI directly to leadership effectiveness, solving complex problems, making better decisions, being adaptable, things you absolutely need in a leader.
It really does sound like a core skill set.
It does. Now, the dissertation is fair. It does mention that while most research supports EI's importance, some studies say, hey, we still need more empirical work to really pin down the impact.
Okay, so it's not completely settled science for everyone, but the trend is strong.
Exactly. The weight of the evidence suggests it's crucial, which naturally leads to thinking about how leaders actually develop this EI.
Which is the core of the study. How does EI link to leader development?
Well, the argument made is pretty compelling. You can't just assume people have good people skills. It's something that needs development. And the research links stronger EI skills directly to better leadership performance. Makes sense, right? If you struggle with EI, it's likely going to hold you back as a leader.
Absolutely. You could be technically brilliant, but if you alienate your team or can't read the room, well, that's a problem.
Precisely. And the dissertation points to Turner's work from 2007, specifically on federal executives.
What did that find?
It found that for developing leadership skills at that level, learning through experience and through relationships, those are the most valuable approaches.
So less about just classroom learning, more about doing and interacting.
Exactly. And that ties into Yokel's broader view of leader development from 2010. He talks about things like role modeling, getting feedback, action learning, where you work on real problems, and these experiential techniques. It's a whole package.
Okay. So this dissertation is zooming in on that intersection, EI and leadership development, specifically within the federal government context, using these real-world experiences.
That's the focus. How did these specific, highly effective leaders actually grow their EI? And the answer seems to lie heavily in experiential and situated learning.
Okay, let's unpack those terms a bit for everyone. Experiential learning. That's learning by doing, basically, based on people like Dewey, Kolb.
Yeah, Lindemann, Dewey, Kolb. It's
Yeah.
about active participation, getting your hands dirty, but then, and this is key, reflecting on that experience.
Dewey really stressed that reflection part, didn't he? Connecting the experience to what you already know and how it changes future actions.
He did, and Kolb gave us that useful four-stage cycle. Remember that?
Vaguely concrete experience.
Yep, you start there, you do something, then Reflective observation, to think about it, what happened, why.
Okay.
Then abstract conceptualization, you try to draw lessons, form theories or ideas from it.
And finally,
Active experimentation, you test out your new understanding in a new situation. And then the cycle repeats. It's continuous.
learning by doing, reflecting, understanding, trying again. Got it. And situated learning. That sounds more social.
It is. That draws on Lave and Wenger. The idea here is that learning isn't just happening inside your individual brain. It's deeply tied to the social context.
So, like learning from your team, your colleagues, within the culture of your workplace.
Exactly. Through interactions, by being part of a community of practice, as they call it, learning is fundamentally social.
And there was another piece mentioned, Ilaris, adding an emotional dimension.
Right. That's a great point. While people like Piaget and Kolb focused a lot on the cognitive side, the thinking, Hilaire said, hang on, you can't separate learning from emotion and motivation.
Ah, the incentive dimension.
Yes, our feelings, our drive, our motivation, they're integral to how and what we learn, which of course connects directly back to emotional intelligence.
Okay, so this sets the stage perfectly. The dissertation is arguing that these leaders developed EI not just from maybe reading a book or taking a course, but through living it, through challenges, interactions within their work environment.
Precisely. Which takes us right into the findings from those interviews. What did these leaders actually say?
So remind us, how did they get this info?
They conducted these deep, semi-structured interviews. They talked to the Presidential Rank Award winners
Right.
and asked them specifically about work experiences they felt were really important, really pivotal in shaping their own emotional intelligence, a real dive into their professional journeys.
Sounds fascinating. And what came out of that? I know there were several themes.
Yes, they identified 6 key themes from analyzing all that interview data. The first one was basically that EI experiences show up in lots of different ways.
Not a single path, then.
Not at all. It could involve processing specific emotions, gaining self-awareness over time, navigating gender dynamics, understanding their own personality.
Maturity played a role, too.
Definitely. Maturity, even how they told stories about their experiences, it was multifaceted. For instance, one leader talked about learning by exception, seeing bad examples, basically.
Learning what not to do.
Exactly. Another mentioned how understanding their personality's impact took a giant leap forward as they matured. It shows developing EI is quite personal for everyone listening.
Makes sense. What was the second theme?
That EI experiences are socially constructed. This ties back to that situated learning idea.
So it happens through interactions.
Very much so. Connecting with people, relating to them. Participants consistently talked about learning the importance of collaboration, both inside their agency and with outside groups. It really hammers home that understanding social dynamics is vital for your EI growth.
Okay. Theme 3.
Culture. Organizational culture came up again and again as a huge influence.
How so? Like helping or hurting?
Both. The culture could be an enabler, supporting EI development, or it could be a barrier, making it harder. One participant even asked, is high EI even really possible in a super rigid hierarchical place? Which is a really potent question.
Yeah, it makes you think about the environment you're in and how that affects your ability to grow these skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, theme 4 was that EI experiences are just inherent for effective leadership. It's not optional. It's essential.
Like a baseline requirement.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Participants saw EI maturity as almost a leadership litmus test. If you didn't have it or hadn't developed it, you probably wouldn't be truly effective at these high levels.
Was there a specific example for that one?
Yeah, one leader made a great comment. Enrollment is everything for a sophisticated leader, meaning you have to be able to bring people along, get their buy-in, connect with them emotionally. That takes EI.
Enrollment is everything. I like that. Okay, theme 5.
This one's crucial. Developing EI depends on experiences, actual lived experiences.
What's the experiential learning idea again?
Exactly. Things like rotational assignments, being put in charge of something new, facing down tough challenges. These were the things people pointed to.
So not just theory.
Not just theory. As one leader put it really bluntly, you have to put them into an experience. That's where the real learning happens.
Right, you can't learn to swim just by reading about water.
Perfect analogy. Okay, and the final theme, number 6, was that EI development isn't siloed. It's integrated with everything else, work life, personal life.
How did that show up?
People talked about how experiences with their family or their core personal values directly influenced how they led people at work. It's holistic. Your whole self contributes to your leadership EI.
Wow. Okay. So those are the 6 themes. Did they synthesize those further?
They did. They boiled those 6 down into 3 overarching patterns, sort of the big picture takeaways from the
Oh,
themes.
what are they?
First pattern, diverse factors affect experiences. Basically, a whole bunch of different things shape our experiences and, consequently, our EI development. Personal traits, circumstances, timing, it's complex.
Got it. Not one single cause. Second.
Second pattern, social and cultural dynamics are key. This emphasizes that EI develops in context within relationships, teams, organizations, cultures. It doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Right. The social and environmental piece.
Exactly. And the third overarching pattern, experiential development, is fundamental. This really doubles down on the idea that significant growth in EI comes from doing things, from living through experiences, and crucially reflecting on them.
Learning from living it.
That's the essence. It's not just passive absorption. It's active engagement and reflection.
Okay, so pulling all this together, what are the main takeaways? What should someone listening really grab onto from this study?
Well, I think the biggest one is the undeniable importance of experiential learning for EI development in leaders.
Those rotational assignments, the tough
Yes,
projects.
those are the crucibles where EI is often forged. Seek them out. Like that participant R1 said, you have to put them into an experience. That's maybe the most direct advice here for you.
And it also highlights that EI is social, right?
Hugely social. You develop it with and through other people. So learning from colleagues, mentors, your team, and actively seeking and being open to feedback is critical. We don't grow these skills alone in a dark room.
That feedback piece is often tough, but so necessary.
Absolutely. And another major finding, maybe even an emergent one, was the sheer power of organizational culture.
You mentioned that it wasn't the main focus initially.
It seems like it wasn't the primary question going in, but it came through so strongly in the interviews. The environment, the culture, profoundly enables or constrains EI and leadership growth. It really sets the stage.
So for you as a leader or aspiring leader, the culture you're in matters a lot.
It really does. And the study sort of implies that while formal training on EI workshops, class is useful for awareness, for giving you the concepts,
Yeah.
the real deep transformative development comes from those lived experiences. The lessons learned the hard way sometimes. It fits with models like Lowenhamit's emotional learning system, learning through action, emotion, reflection.
So training gives you the map, experience is the journey.
That's a great way to put it. And based on all of this, the study suggests a more holistic approach for developing leaders.
What would that look like?
It would blend fostering self-awareness, maybe using tools like Nelson and Lowe's ELS, their emotional learning system,
Okay.
with providing meaningful experiential activities, those challenging assignments we talked about. But also, crucially, building in ways to sustain that EI growth
How do you sustain it?
through things like senior leaders modeling the behavior, consistent opportunities to practice these skills, and regular constructive feedback loops. It needs ongoing attention.
Right, it's not a one and done thing.
Definitely not.
Okay, so summing up this deep dive, what we've learned is that for these really successful federal leaders, developing emotional intelligence wasn't simple. It was complex, deeply tied to their experiences,
Shaped by the people around them and the culture they worked in.
and driven by a wide mix of personal factors and situations they encountered. And ultimately, having that developed EI was just fundamental to their effectiveness.
Absolutely. And for you, listening, the value here is seeing how these development paths unfolded. It can give you real clues about how to approach your own growth and emotional intelligence and leadership.
Yeah, regardless of your specific job or field, it's about noticing the power of your own experiences.
Right. Noticing the interactions, the cultural influences around you, and seeing them as opportunities for learning.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. Think about your own career, your own life. What experiences have really shifted how you understand or manage emotions, yours or others?
And reflecting on those moments, what social dynamics, what cultural norms were really in play, were you supported, challenged?
And maybe the most important question, how can you now intentionally seek out the kinds of experiences and create the space for reflection afterwards that will help you keep developing your own emotional intelligence?
That's your challenge. Something to explore until we meet again for the next deep dive.